Alright, so I got a 2005 Pontiac Grand Am. It has a bad head gasket. It leaks some oil. So I'm thinking intake manifolds are bad. They're leaking oil. Possibly that's why it's burning coolant, or it's the head gasket, but if I'm gonna go that deep, I might as well just take the head off too. So I'm gonna take off the heads, replace the head gasket. I'm also gonna replace the heads themselves just so bring some new life into this engine and sort out any other issues that arise during the process. I already got the car on jack stands, already relieved the fuel pressure, disconnect the battery. So I think I'm going to drain the coolant and the oil, and here we go. Underneath the car, it's covered in oil. It's leaking pretty bad. This oil drain bolt's 13 millimeter, and then the oil filter is that one right there, I believe. It even has the date on it. Nice. Alright, gonna drain it, and then work on draining the coolant. Normally there's a splash shield, I believe, under here. This car doesn't have it. So the petcock is right here. Just twist it. I got my bucket under it. So out comes the coolant. Just from having to refill the coolant with some water every time it burns the coolant out, it's basically just water now. Pretty crazy. So in order to do a head replacement, intake, manifold replacement, any sort of big job where you're gonna have a lot of bolts, you have to stay organized. So I have this bottom area of the bench. All the old parts I'm gonna put right here inside of the car. I have all the new parts going in, and then I'm gonna use these sandwich bags with a marker to label what all the bolts go as. So that's how I like to organize. Okay, now I'm gonna work on all this intake throttle body stuff. Intake out of the way. This is the throttle body bracket. I got the cable and the cruise control cable out. Just 2 bolts on top, one on the side, or one nut on the side. Let's see what's next. Okay, throttle body's completely out. I had to use a 13 millimeter wrench. It'd be a lot nicer if I had a flex head, but you definitely need a ratcheting wrench. Flex head would have made it nicer, but it was able to be done with just the straight head ratcheting wrench. So let's see what's next. All these harnesses, pretty sure they're all different plugs, so you really don't have to worry about labeling them or trying to remember where they go. They only plug into one plug, so you should be good there. I took out all the spark plugs, got pretty much all the wiring harness disconnected, just about. The ignition coil pack is gone. I don't even know what sensor this is, but I'm about to undo this sensor. Got that bolt there. And I'm going to take out some of the vacuum lines and just move the wiring harness out of the way as I can. With the wiring harness off to the side, everything unhooked. Now I'm going to work on this upper intake manifold. I took the serpentine belt off. I actually got my ratchet stuck in the tensioner, so that was a bit of a struggle to get it back. I finally was able to undo the 2 alternator bolts, and that freed up the last upper intake manifold bolt, so this should just pop off. Yeah, one-handed. There we go. There's the underside. Got the alternator out. The bolts are different sizes. There's 1 or 2 more bolts also, but the long one goes in the back, and the other ones you should be able to just figure it out whether it threads in all the way or not. So I got quite a bit done off of camera. I got the lower intake manifold completely off. So basically there was just a couple hoses going to it. I had to disconnect it. One little thing that happened was this hose back here kind of snapped or something. It's brittle, so I'll have to figure out how to fix that. But I got this off. Pulling it off, you could see just how bad this gasket was blown. I don't have a light to show you, but you can see there's coolant inside of here. So it was this lower intake manifold gasket that's on the bottom, that blue. So now I got to take off the rocker arms, the push rods, exhaust manifold, and then the head will be free. That's everything. To take off the intake manifold, I chose to remove the feed fuel line and the return line right here at the fuel pressure regulator. You can take off the whole fuel rail, or like leave it connected, hang it out of the way, do however you want. But to me, I thought it was easiest to do this because maybe we're just put a big wrench here, a wrench there, and break it free, and it pops out. So it wasn't too bad. So to remove the rocker arms, this one is just a 8mm nut, bolt, whatever it is. You just undo it. I was afraid it was gonna like fly off or something because of the valve springs, but the valve springs are locked with whatever that key thing, ball thingy is. So you just loosen it up, you can pick it up and grab the push rod with it, and then you have to organize it. So I'm gonna have the front of the engine like this and the back that way. It's very important to put the push rods in the correct spot where they came out. Push rods and rocker arms are all out. I got them organized here, as I showed you before. This is the push rod for that rocker arm, and so on for all 8 of them, I think it is. Oh, 12. Yeah. So now I gotta work on getting the exhaust. There's the heat shields and then the exhaust manifolds where it connects to the downpipe or where the catalytic converter is. So hopefully these old nuts don't fight me. So with the heat shield off, you can see there's 3 nuts and bolts on each side. I'm gonna choose probably just to do that side, even though this is better access. I've learned you don't want to remove these because they may break. So I'm going to try just those 3, and then I'll get this exhaust manifold off and pull this whole unit off in one. I think that's the plan. I'm going to go ahead and spray them with penetrating fluid. I already sprayed the exhaust manifolds 2 days ago, so I'm going to do this collector pipe. Finally got all the exhaust manifolds off. So I showed you, I think it did, this front exhaust manifold with the collector pipe is off now. I got all this section done. I chose not to unbolt it from the catalytic converter downpipe area thing. It was just 2 bolts, but I didn't want to risk it. And as soon as I got this manifold off, it just popped off. So it should be out of the way. Now I just got to do the head bolts, pull the heads off, and then that's it. I got the front head off. All these bolts are loosened on this rear head. I'm just working on it. And the bolts are different sizes. Just pull one out. This is long. And then this one in the back is a little shorter. So yeah, you can see. And then it's like it for all of them. So short, long, and I think it was long and then short, something like that. So right now, after taking the head gaskets off, you have to clean the surface for the new head gasket. So you can see this is the rear side's all dirty still, and then this front side I already cleaned up, and it's got to be smooth to the touch, which it is now. I'm using this little razor blade deal, just scraping off, trying to be careful not to scratch the engine block, and then brake clean and a rag, and it's working out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of the other side, and then that's gonna be it for this video. So lots happened since the last clip. Now, I have no idea what the last clip was, but you just watched it, so that's good. But here we got 2 heads, and if you notice, this one's much dirtier than this one. This is because this is one of the new heads that I bought. I bought 2 new heads rebuilt already to slap it in so I could have this job done 3 days tops. Turned out to be about almost 2 weeks. This is because when I was putting the rocker arm let's see, it's these ones. So one of these stripped. This one's stripped, and when I tried to helicoil it, I completely messed up. I somehow did, this one did the same thing, I helicoiled it, that one worked, somehow did that right, but messed up that one. Took it to a machine shop, so it's too far gone, wasn't savable, so I had to just bite the bullet, just suck it up on my mistake. In the process, I found this machine shop, local by, that was able to use one of the old heads, rebuild it with the parts from this one, and they did it all on the same day. The previous machine shop I used before took about 3, almost 4 weeks. So, but now that I know that, that's going to be my option instead of buying heads online that I already rebuilt. I didn't show any of the process of putting it back together, basically because it's the reverse of taking it off. If you took it off, you can figure out how to put it back on, basically. So final advice, if you're doing this job, either lower upper intake, you go in the whole way with the head replacement. When you're putting the head bolts on, you're going to want to use some sort of thread sealant, head bolts and the intake manifold bolts. So this is the thread sealant I use, Prime Seal. I got it at O'Reilly's, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that works. I'll start it up so you can hear it. Here we go. It's running great. Originally there was a little bit of a lifter tick going on. One of the rocker arms or something was just not lubricated enough. So now it's gone. Everything's working. This was successful. I got to do a little bit more of a test drive, but so good. They're all good. And that's how you change the heads on this 2005 Pontiac Grand Am.